This is Transposition Sports. I'm Karleigh Chardonnay Webb, and you're probably wondering where I am. Well, you know what? Not going to be there live tonight because today, May 30th, 2024, is my birthday. That's right. And it's number 53. So I'm out celebrating. But I still had to take a minute to address all of you with some birthday wishes and a birthday rant. First, got to send some shouts out. Number one, I got to send a shout out to my Gridiron girls, Chelsea Poe, who's had a lot of great stuff happen, and to Shauna Atkinson, who last weekend went off to the USA Dodgeball Tour event in Austin, Texas, and her team finished second overall. Not bad, not shabby. And when one of the matches went into overtime, that left hand was lethal again. Just a warning, stay away from her left. You'll be glad you did. Just saying. Also want to send a special shout out to a group of girls who got my heart. I'm talking about my Connecticut Ambush, my football team. We're back in action this weekend. Got 2 home games coming up. Hey, we still got some season left and some work to do. But they've got my heart because of the way that they've welcomed and embraced me to be a part of a football season I didn't see coming. I didn't think I was going to get to play again. And here I am, back out in that field. Also, hooray to Dwayne Wade and his daughter Zaya. They announced the start of their translatable platform, support platform for trans youth. And once again, D. Wade is showing why, even after his career, the man's still a champ. A champ as a father, and now becoming a champ as an advocate. And D-Wade, I want to give you the open invitation right now. Transposition Sports wants you. That's right. I want you to be on Transposition Sports. I'd love to have you come on and chop it up about a lot of these things, about a lot of these initiatives that you're taking on, and just about what's it been like to be a father and how you've evolved. I think it'd be a great discussion. So how about it? Hey, let's call each other and let's make this happen. Oh, by the way, what is translatable? I'll let them tell you.
Welcome to Translatable. I'm Dwayne Wade.
And I'm Zaya Wade. And yeah, welcome to Translatable. Translatable aims to serve as a community safe space for youth to express themselves through a number of creative outlets. Here at Translatable, we focus on communities of color, center the most marginalized, and emphasize the importance of parents and family.
Translatable is also a resource hub for parents, families, and support system of the LGBTQIA+ youth. For our family, we were blessed to have a community of supporters and knowledgeable experts who could swiftly arm us with the tools we needed to support Zaya in her journey. We recognize the lack of digestible and relatable information available to youth and families, especially communities of color. And to this day, we are still learning. I'm so very proud of the daughter that I've had the opportunity to raise. She has been my biggest educator and inspiration of what it means to be true to you. That's why it's so important to create a collaborative space for the community to participate in the conversation and express themselves freely.
Now let's have some fun. Over the next few months, we'll be rolling out content, resource guides, and interactive features where we can hear from you.
We want to emphasize that the learning never stops. You can expect to see ever evolving content and resources to keep you up to date on Translatable.
So make sure to sign up for email updates. We're just getting started.
Again, congratulations to the both of you, and I support you and have you back 100%. Now, a boo to the Tory government in the UK. Again, an emergency ban on puberty blockers for trans youth from June 3rd to September 3rd, even though we know it's going to go beyond because on July 4th they got that general election. The Tories are going all in on the culture war to try and win because they see the poll numbers. They see the polls. And there are some of you who are thinking, this has nothing to do with sports. Sports played into this. Don't kid yourself. You don't think that a bunch of people who jumped on British Airways flights went to Atlanta 2 years ago to harass Leah Thomas at a college swim meet didn't lead to this? You didn't think the anti-Emily Bridges nonsense didn't lead to this? Think again. Sebastian Coe, former Tory MP, And now the head of World Athletics had the temerity to fix his mouth to say, I don't want sports to be a part of culture wars. Your party started the culture war, Lord Coe. Your party did that. And you continued it with that ridiculous blanket ban that you put up. Spare me the crocodile tears. Nobody's listening. And again, general election on the 4th. Not that anything is going to be much better if Labor gets in, because after all, Keir Starmer's for the same stuff. Wow. Labor, Tories. Pick your poison. Strychnine, arsenic. How do you want to die? Now, in the 5 years since CeCe Telfer's great win at the NCAA championships, sports has been a battleground of growing debate over transgender people, both here and increasingly abroad. And these last few weeks, we saw booing in Oregon, and to top it off with some angst in the Apple State because of some young transgender girl named Veronica Garcia. She just happened to be in the Class 2A 400-meter finals, and she won. And she won by about 1 second. It was a pretty definite victory. Just like with Aiden Gallagher in Oregon, people booed her, and there's a couple of Karens online stalking her and constantly demeaning her and misgendering her and dead naming her. The common denominator between what happened in Oregon, what happened in Washington, are adults picking on high school kids. And you have groups like Karens Against Women's Sports. They call themselves Icons Women. I'm not going to use that name. They're coming in hot on all these youngsters. Even if you're in middle school. After all, a certain former swimmer still upset about the trophy that's on her mantle now flew all the way to West Virginia to give support to an attorney general who described 13-year-old Becky Pepper Jackson like this.
You have people, this came up in Bridgeport recently, that someone is doing a shot put. I praised the little girls who walked off and didn't compete because they have to face a male. You don't want little girls to be facing hulking males in the locker rooms.
Hulking males. She's 13, Attorney General Morrissey. 13. Now, I mentioned Aiden Gallagher, the Oregon State champ in Class 6A at 200 meters, and how they got a chorus of boos, and how Veronica Garcia in Washington got about the same. They were both victims of a tactic, video bait and switch. A lot of these people online who really don't like trans people very much show all these ridiculous prelim heats of races that happen long before the present moment and say, see, those boys are dominating. Never mind, they don't show the finals. They don't show how close, and when those races are close or when people lose, they don't show that. And that's the way they lie to you. And they're still going after Aiden Gallagher. It's been 2 weeks. They even went after a prominent business that just made a little show of support in their social media. The Sports Bra, the celebrated all-women sports all the time watering hole in Portland, Oregon. They sent a shout out to Aiden Gallagher because that kid's mom contacted people out there in the social media and said, hey, can someone give a kind word to my daughter who's taking all this guff? So Jenny went in the crew of the Sports Bra, said, yeah, we can do that. And they did that. And they gave the kudos. And boy, the Karens hated it. They went after the Sports Bra. Now, what was up with that? They went as far as to throw jabs at their newest investor, Alexis Ohanian. Oh, by the way, who's he? He's a tech financier and the husband of tennis legend Serena Williams. They even went after Serena, by the way. Now, that's rich. These same people who for years called her and her sister Venus a man because she's that good, are now trying to get her to be transphobic. Trans misogynoir just doesn't affect transgender women. It affects black cis women too. And as a black woman of trans experience, I know it when I see it. Hashtag just saying. It's interesting that they go after Ohanian because he's been a strident supporter of women's sport. And not just with his mouth, but also with his dollars.
In America, the free market has a lot of weight because plenty of other sports are now getting this investment, getting this support. They have the talent. Don't get in the replies. Don't waste your time telling me how you don't care about women's sports. You'll never care about it. That's fine. Ask yourself, why is Brady an investor in the Vegas Aces? Why is the Mahomes family invested in the KC Current? Pay attention to your role models. See what they're doing. As a sports fan, we should celebrate this. More women having more opportunities to be professional athletes and make a living from it, get famous from it, get endorsements from it, all those things. It's a great thing. It's going to mean we'll get to see more greatness. Who doesn't like greatness?
Elsewhere, the Karens Against Women's Sports Transphobopalooza on Wheels tour is now underway. They got their bus and they're going across the country and they're going to make stops and they're going to trot out people like Gaines and Margaret Cordalova, those type, and all the other plaintiffs of that petty lawsuit that they're throwing up against the NCAA. And they're going to pick on these kids, and they're probably also going to try and pick on Sadie Schreiner. I mean, in some way, she may become the next Leah Thomas. They're going to talk about her for years on end, too. Now, I'll hold the name Sadie Schreiner with honor, because this past weekend, she was a two-time All-American. NCAA Division III Track and Field Championships. She went out there, and the sophomore from Rochester Institute of Technology, she put in work. Now, one race was disappointing. The 400-meter final, she finished 8th. I could tell she was disappointed, but she bounced back in the 200 meters. After a rough start, she fought through the curve, got in her stride, and fought all the way to 3rd place. What was in her way? Kennedy Waite from Mount Union, defending Division III champion in the 200. She was 2nd. And Lauren Jarrett from Wisconsin Lacrosse, who was the sprint diva of this meet. 100 and 200 champion. Now, this was Sadie Schreiner's sophomore year. She's got a couple more years of eligibility. Who knows what she could do as a junior now that she's gone through this once. The sad thing is she may not get the chance because NCAA rules, which will take effect in August, will mandate that eligibility for transgender women in women's sport will be decided by the rules of the national or world governing body in the individual sports, which means the NCAA will adopt World Athletics blanket ban, which means Sadie Schreiner's career most likely, unless these rules change and the NCAA says they're under review again, it would end at that last race last Saturday night in Myrtle Beach if the rules remain. Now, in my eyes, these rules have no scientific, medical, or competitive basis. There's no basis of any kind for a blanket ban. And the recent IOC study, Ada Chang, Kirsty Miller study in Australia, and the findings of the Canadian Centre of Ethics in Sports back this up. More and more the evidence, in addition to what we already know medically, what we already know scientifically, and most importantly, what we already know on the scoreboard confirms this. And there's the part people don't hear but need to. And that's the experience of a transgender person in sport. Sadie Schreiner on this forum to this reporter gave us a piece of that experience. And it's worth a second look.
So I've been competing in track and field for 9 years. The majority of that has been running the 400, which is my favorite event. And, through middle school, I was state championship. I was setting school records. In high school, I was top of my league. And I started taking medication and my time plateaued at a nice 50 point. And I went into RIT with that time. The coach is expecting that I was going to whittle down. And even I thought that only like 3 months on medication wouldn't do that much to my body. But I go into the track team and everything's completely different. I'm working out and my calves start to explode. In the future, like 6 months down the road, I start having workouts where I'm running so hard that I can't walk the next day because I'm running at these times my body can't keep up with anymore. And I very quickly noticed that this wasn't something where I was out of shape. This was something where things were different and I needed to adjust. And so I took the year to myself and I didn't compete. And I come back and all of a sudden I went from running a 50 point to running a 60 point. And we've been slowly cutting that time back down as I've gotten more used to the way my body works. But it's a speed that I'll never be able to reach again, I'm sure.
So make sure I get the timeline right. You started HRT before you started college.
Yeah. So I knew I was trans throughout my high school life, but I knew transitioning would have complications with the track team. So I waited until the last like month or two of my senior year of track to go on medication. And then I started to socially transition going into college so I could come in as Sadie, as who I am.
Mhm.
And since then, I've been on medication for 2 years now.
So essentially, freshman year of college, you was like, no, I'm taking this year off. I'm taking
Yeah.
this year off. I'm going to figure, I want to learn who I am.
Not even just
And
that, but like I need to learn how my body works because I notice a huge decrease in my muscles, really in my legs especially. I visualize running sometimes as like shifting gears, between different speeds you could go, and all of a sudden I was incapable of shifting gears. I was unable to just get faster. It was either sprint or jog, and there's nothing in between. Um, and it was a telltale sign to me that my muscles were different and my body was different. And unless I changed how I was working out, I wasn't going to get any improvement.
now, how did you do that? I want to know this for me. I wish I wish I could have talked to you like 5 years ago. I wish I could have heard this.
Trial and error, honestly. A lot of it was fighting my own mental, like my own mentality of I used to be able to run this time, I should be running this time in the workout. Um, and I would do that and I would destroy my calves and be unable to walk. And so it became tapering and experimentation for a year as I figured out what worked and what didn't. One of the biggest things that I realized pretty early on was that drills involving high accelerations, so going from slow to top speed, those were the most brutal on me and my legs. Um, just because I'm sure that 1 year point, as my muscles were changing and how they grew, my calves really became a lot weaker. And so that transition of speed would start to really wear down on my legs. And so I had to think of other ways to work out, other longer drills, focusing on endurance before I could start to go back to speed.
What do you want to tell everyone about what's going on, how you feel about the landscape of what's going on as far as being trans, being a student, being an athlete, being a woman? Have
Yeah.
at it.
We're definitely in an environment where people get reported on and about without being talked to. And I think one of the greatest things we can do is open up a conversation with trans athletes. So many decisions are being made by people who aren't athletes or people who aren't trans, and they're not opening up to discussion to the people they're criticizing. And I think we're really losing their voice in the argument and their story, their personal story that matters in this case, because sports are so personal and have such a huge influence on our lives. Because these are the people that have the most evidence on as to what HRT does to their athletic performance, because they're the athletes going through it. They're the people we need to talk to.
People bray on about fair. It's got to be fair. Everything's got to be fair. Where's Sadie Schreiner's fairness based on what you just heard? Where's hers? I think she should get some fairness too. You're making rules about transgender people in sport. Doesn't it make sense to have transgender people at the table? But see, that's also the sticking point. Because when a lot of cisgender people talk about fairness, especially transphobic cisgender people, what they're really talking about is comfort. And the fact is, Sadie Schreiner racing at that meet, just like Leah Thomas, and just like Cece Telfer, and just like a Pat Manuel, yeah, that discomfort goes for trans men too, or a Cal Calamia, who is non-binary, but As the New York Marathon showed, they were a little bit uncomfortable to pay them the check they earned. You're uncomfortable to see them compete, just like you're probably uncomfortable to see a trans child going to school next to your child, or a trans person delivering your mail, or ringing up your groceries, or defending your country. Like one trans person who I hold in very high regard, and who a lot of people demeaned for participating in a sport she loved, did. It's interesting we're having these discussions with Pride just around the corner. Pride starts in a couple days. And it's my sincere hope that this Pride, that people just don't say the platitudes or sign the letter, but they really, really speak out. And they really start calling those that are using these issues to sell more discrimination to task. See, I'm a believer that sports is for everyone. That sport should be for everyone. That sport is the right of the people. After all, the Olympic Charter says it. Fourth principle of Olympism, that the practice of sport is a human right. And sport should be open to all because sport is a magic, wonderful thing. I saw that firsthand a couple weeks ago. Hitting a football field, eyeing across the line of scrimmage, and seeing a linebacker in position who loves the game like me and is trans like me, and surrounded by teammates who back them up, just as my own teammates with the ambush back me up. And we met in a clash of will and pads. And after the dust settled, she got the tackle, and I gained a few yards. We were able to say, "Nice play, sis," and she said, "Back at you." And then we all went back to the huddle, lined up, and we did it again. That is magic. And everyone should have a chance at that magic. That magic isn't just for cis people only. It's for everyone. No matter how young or how old. And the mere fact that adults especially would pick on kids for wanting to have a piece of that magic, it should anger you, because it certainly angers me. I love sport too much to give it to people that will use it to spread discrimination and hate. I plan on fighting against them. I hope that you'll join me. For TransPosition Sports, I'm Karleigh Webb.